Light a campfire, and everyone's a storyteller. Join us for some thought-provoking and beyond fireside chats.
Welcome to Leave Our World a Better Place. My name is Kasha, and my guest today is Leo Gungulo from Oceans Without Borders. Leo will be chatting to us about how his love for the ocean led him to a career in marine conservation, from scuba diving instructor to a deeper focus on conservation and community work, and ultimately to his position as field operations manager, overseeing marine rangers, field officers, and community interactions on 3 different islands. Hello, Leo. Thank you very much for finding the time to talk to us about Oceans Without Borders.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Leo, before we talk about Oceans Without Borders, I'd like to find out a little bit about you and what motivated you to become involved in marine conservation and eventually to join Oceans Without Borders.
Just a little bit of background of me. I was born about 2 k's to the sea. So I got to be in the water while I was baby. So my passion of the sea has been always there since I was born. After finishing the school, and then I had a chance of starting scuba diving with one of my best friends. While I was in scuba diving training, I had a chance of also being part of Bitonga Divers Team, which is another organization that runs Mozambique and southern side, has conservation, which leads more with community and the ocean as well. I think everything was linked since I was born somehow.
So it was almost meant to be. The passion for the ocean and for marine conservation is in your blood.
It is in my blood.
Okay. When you initially became involved, you say you worked with the communities talking about marine conservation. How did you become aware of Oceans Without Borders and how did you end up at Vamizi Island where you worked as a field officer or a marine ranger?
Since 2010, when I started scuba diving, I've been based more home, which is in Tofu, in Yemen. So I have dived around this southern part from 2010 until beginning of 2016. And then I realized that I should move a little bit from home and then get to see different reefs in different places. And then I had contract at Vamizi Island. On that time, it was with Kirimba Island Charter, which was running the dive center at Vamizi Island. I joined them, and then I was only a scuba instructor because one of my friends as well was working there as the main scuba instructor. And then he moved out in 2018. And then I took as the head scuba instructor on island. And therefore, I was running the dive center from 2018 onwards to 19 as manager of dive center. And then Ocean Without Borders, by then 2016, when I arrived, they were actually, I think, starting project on island. The conservation was already going in. And then as well as the start in 2016, there were also marine conservation running already at Vamizi. And 2016, I think Ocean Without Borders came in, not officially on 2016, but we were working together with Tessa by then, helping up as much as we could. But I was not employed by them. And 2018, and then OWB, I started joining them. Before I get employed from them, I was already somehow working with them because I was running the dive center, and therefore I had to do some work together. We have to work together because if we're doing over the sea and I was the man with the dives, with cylinders, with everything, with oil correcting. So and then I get to know all those receivers, and we get to do the work together.
What were some of the things that you used to do in terms of marine conservation? We've been talking about marine rangers lately and what are the things that marine rangers do in terms of conservation. So what are examples of some of the things that you or other members of the team that you worked with used to do at Vamizi?
We had our list of the big five. We were talking about the Napoleon race, bumphead parrotfish. We were talking about the turtles. We were talking about sharks. So on all of those big five, they were recording on each dive the numbers, the dive sites. Sometimes if we could get exactly the point where we saw it,
Mm-hmm.
that would be helpful. So we were sharing that information through the dive center to the marine side, so through TESA or through the other organization which is there, so they can use that to the records for now, for example, that we doing some of the records for that. That all especially for the sharks and then turtles. It was very good to know how to share that information and then to get from them to get back to us and saying,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this shark I think is the same one that you guys have seen. The number of the sharks now is going less or is getting more. And then the turtles for this year they were less or more. So it was good information because we could share what the feedback that were coming from them with the guests. And that part I think was one of the most important thing that we were doing for us as the part of only
Mm-hmm.
instructors side or the captains, especially on the well season, because we were spending more time on the sea and then we could tell how many whales we saw. And then that information was good to share with them. When we got more involved and then it gets even more
Mm-hmm.
bigger picture.
Yeah. So it was basically, it began with a lot of data collection and monitoring and sort of sharing that information and keeping everybody updated.
Correct.
And then as you became more involved, I know you've spoken about the acoustic receivers. Was that a project that you were involved in from the start?
When I got into Vamizi, there were already some receivers in the water, the Remcos. That project were already being done by them. But
Mm-hmm.
when I
Mm-hmm.
started, because those receivers they can stay in the water for a long time, they have to share the little bit of information of what they are, what the reason they're in there. Because for you as
Mm-hmm.
instructors, when you lead people there, you always will have questions. So you have to know how to answer them. When they have started telling us or letting us what the reason why they're in there, they have give us the instructions how to clean
Yes.
them, how to take care of them, or what we should more look if we go past by, if we dive, or what to share that information with the guests as well. Because monitoring those receivers, it was not only our goal as a dive instructor, but we were trying to involve also our guests so to know, to be aware of what we're doing.
That's some of the things that you used to do in the water to do with conservation. Were there other things that you got involved in on the land? I know there's turtle nestings and turtle monitors at Vermisi. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Beside water side, and then we had the birds. I did a little bit of birds. There is a one thing that I have learned when I got on the island.
Mm-hmm.
Before I went there, I was just a seaman, anything to do with the sea. All the fish, I could even count the names, like sleeping, wake me up. Hey, what fish you saw yesterday? I could tell everything. But then when I got it on island, I'm like, no, okay, you know everything about the sea, but let's just take you a little bit to your conservation because the conservation is not only the sea that you're looking on it, but it also what is surrounding you. You need to know your birds, you need to know your snakes, you need to know what we have in Ireland because people that they will come around or your guests that you'll be hosting, they'll not only be based on the sea. You need to know what you have. Sometimes, when we are doing a briefing on open area, because it's so hot here on that side. Now
Mm.
comes a kingfish.
Mm-hmm.
He's sitting there and looking because he's not afraid of anything. And then they're like, what kind of bird is that? So if you don't know that, and then you're in front of a large number, and then you're living in a place where that diversity, I mean, you should be able to know at least one or two names of the species that you'll be on the land. So, and
Yes.
then I get involved in a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
knowing the names of the snakes, the birds, and get involved with community.
That's a very important part of the Oceans Without Borders model, isn't it? Is the community work. What exactly did you do with the community? Was it education or working with community monitors? How exactly did that part of it work at Vamisi?
First of all, because of being head of the dive center, I was helping them on the monitoring of the sanctuary. So we have the
Mm-hmm.
sanctuary that is created, of course, by the community because that belongs to the community.
Mm-hmm.
They have one engine, one small boat, but it's not all the time that they were every day they were doing their patrols because of the
Yes.
weather, and then the boats that they had, they were small. But for us, because we were always on the water and it could be easier to help. So we were helping them as well, monitoring the sanctuary by trying to find the fishermen or even nets that are in the sanctuary sometimes, and then help them removing those special for the nets or lines that we were finding in the reef. And then if we find the fishermen getting confiscated and then take all those goods and the fishermen back to community. And then, as everything works, fishermen that were paying the fees back to community. So, and then that, it was quite a big help to them. And we became very good friends.
Now, as part of what you do for OWB now, you're field operations manager and you oversee the field operations on all the three islands where Oceans Without Borders works. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about the differences and the similarities between the islands and the work or the projects or the marine species that are being focused on in the different places?
I can tell you a little bit more about Nembo Island and Vamizi. I have been to Benguera, but that was
Hmm.
just past two. It was before even I got
Yes.
up and enough to start working, so that's been a little bit long. But as the project goes,
Hmm.
the way things come through, the way I have things I know, we will be more monitoring the
Hmm.
turtles, sharks, and the broad fish. Of course,
Okay.
we have our main other focus, which is the community. Okay, but the totals and shocks. So we need to look and monitor on the reef, the water temperature, the current, which will lead as well for the change
Yes.
of all the species that is in the sea. So I think if we collecting data for those three different places, and then I wish we could have more places, five, six, and then check all together. I think that will give us a huge idea of what we could do better in the future for those that are still coming.
So you think it's important to have more places where you're doing monitoring to get a bigger picture of what the conditions are alongside the whole coast of Africa?
Exactly. Because we're working more in tropical water. So, I mean, Vamese, it is just 29
Hmm.
water. Namib Island, same temperature. And down south now we're going to start working with a little bit of
Hmm.
different temperature. So now if you start classify, especially the reef, and then we will see that there is a huge difference between the coral and then just the bottom contour, how it looks like. That will be very, very different. Somehow we'll have to put a bit of videos, look for the three different how that's look like and see. That will be amazing thing to see or even to share with the world. So if we have more places to compare with and having more data to be collected and then having more total monitoring because those species, I mean, they're almost gone. And then sharks. Once I was laughing because we were in South here and then we had manta ray that were tagged. And then somehow then we heard that the manta ray it was seen up to somehow in Tanzania. I think there was Pemba Island in Tanzania. I'm like, that far? Yeah, they do travel that far. So that is something very interesting, like you find something here and then somehow you think that it stay
Hmm.
closer and then somehow it just move across to those different places. And that's one of the things that we need to know. Do those species that all stay here or do they move? And if they move, do they come back?
Yeah, that's.
And what distance, what
Hmm.
kilometers they're making up? And then if they're coming back, when they're back, do they bring more other species similar? I wish I could be just shark in the
Mm.
stream of them, go whatever, just follow them.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
Leo, Oceans Without Borders does do some tagging on specific species to do exactly what you spoke about to monitor their movements. And I think it's giant trevally at Benguera and is it grey reef sharks at Vamizi that you've been tagging?
Yes, that's correct.
Mm, mm. And at Nemba, are there any species that are tagged there, or is that part of the future plans?
That will be an ongoing project that we're gonna
Hmm.
start.
Of course, obviously, you know Vamizi very well, and you've been to Nemba before. Obviously, there must be quite a lot of differences but also similarities between the conditions, the marine species, and the corals. How do the two compare to you? What's similar and what's different between the two islands?
The wall dives are similar. The coral, it is some of places of dive sites that are similar. Never Island is small island, and if you have to cover the kilometers of the coral reef, it is so small comparing to Vamese Island, like really really small. But of
Mm,
course, if we have to compare it on the coral, how healthy it is around Nemba and Vamese, of course Vamese is the best place comparing to the coral. But the diving wall sites, it is for Mars is similar. I
mhm.
know a couple of places that I went to, the drop offs that also go to 100 meters, 40, and by means we got similar reefs as well. So if we have to garden coral, I think Mamisi is still a unique place for now. Even Benguera, they don't have the same structure of the reef.
Mm. Well, Vamisi is known as the cradle of corals, so there's a reason for the name.
Yes.
Mm.
And especially now that there's no more, almost no divers. So even though that we're still doing the patrols, but if there's no divers to go in and then look for nets and then take care of the reef, and then a couple of changes might happen. Hope for good. Hope for good.
Yes, absolutely. We've spoken about working with the local communities, and I know that's very important. And particularly at Vermisi, the community is very involved in policing the marine sanctuary. What are some of the challenges that the communities face, in terms of marine conservation? Is it fishing with nets? What are the biggest threats or the challenges?
It's net fishing.
Is it net fishing? Okay.
Yes.
Is it difficult to get the buy-in of the communities? Or I know at Vimisi the community is involved, but in general, on the other islands, is the community involved in conservation? Do they understand the need for it? Or is it difficult to get buy-in?
On the southern part where I used to work with, because of the tourism that comes, in Yambani, tourism is one of the first thing that is benefit of it. So in southern part of Mozambique, I'm going to talk about Benguera. They do understand, and then the thing is that by the time you start speaking of them,
Hmm.
by the time you start telling them what the project is, what the impact it will bring, they will be there to help. They will support you and so many other ways that will support you. If you say this, do this, that will support you. Of course, that there's so many things that they cannot agree, but most of it they will. They'll mostly give you space
Hmm.
as long as you know how to approach, know how to deal with them. That will help. I'm not so much sure about Nemba. On Ireland itself,
Hmm.
there's no community living there. So the community is coming from the mainland, but they're engaged. There
Mm,
might not be most of them, but few that might be involved.
yeah. So do you believe that the most important thing is education about what to do and why to do it?
That's the key.
And Leo, what is your favorite part of your work? Is it diving, conservation? Is it community work? Is there something that you like doing more than anything else?
When I am in the water, when I'm diving, and then my mind is diving. Everything for me is just diving by that time. But when I'm teaching, and then my passion by that time is just my main focus teaching. And then, I say sometimes, I love teaching. But when I'm in
Hmm.
scuba diving, I'm like, I love scuba diving. When I'm in a community and then deal with community, oh, I'm start laughing and that talking that and that one. I love community. In the end, I love three things of it. So I don't know what I love the most, depending on the situation I am.
So you're a very lucky man. You love everything about your job.
I think simple way to say yes. Because if I have to choose, I don't know what to choose.
Well, it's a good thing you don't have to choose. Now, talking a little bit about diving, do you have a favorite island to dive on or a favorite dive spot, or do you just enjoy it all?
I learned something about scuba diving when I started. I always thought that Tofu is the best place to
Hmm.
dive. And then I realized, like, no, it's just you being in the water and breathing the compressed air and then have that salt water in you. That's what I love the most. I mean, I can just be there and then see bubbles. I'm happy about it. So I just love to be in the water. And then I love diving in both places. You put me whatever to see, I will enjoy it. Because in different place that you will see, you will go, you will see a different things. And then you need to have to start learning, enjoying whatever you see on that moment in that place. Of course, there is a comparable that you need to do, but I am not that kind of diver of starting comparing that there is the best, that is the best, because I dive for me. I don't dive to lead people in the water. If I had to lead people, maybe I should choose because that will be depending of what my guest needs. But if I just have me to be in the water, put me in a 5 meter, give me compressible air, I see small fish, 10, I'm happy.
Yes.
Maybe because I've seen plenty in my life. Maybe if someone maybe hear that might be like, maybe Leo is crazy, but maybe yeah, because I've been seeing plenty. So just give me compressed air and then be in water. That's it.
I think that's a fantastic way to look at it. Really, really great. Leah, I know right now with the realities of COVID, you're not at Vermeesi where you want to be and things are difficult at the moment. What are some of your hopes and your goals for when things change? What's the first thing you want to do when you're able to, personally and also in terms of your job?
I want to, for my job first, I want to be able of getting to all those three places easily because I have to be in
Mm-hmm.
the field and work with those community and work with those people. And while I am of those
Mm-hmm.
places, I want
Yes.
to see if there's any opportunity that we can
Mm-hmm.
educate more the community so they can help us in conservation. Conservation is not about only one person or two or three, it's all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think more we can teach people about it and then let people know what is happening. And then I think that would make our job easy and even expanding more conservation sites. It helps for the community as well. Sometimes I sit with the music community. I used to and then ask them what's the impact. Having the feedback for it, it really works. Involving more community that will be priority because once we have community in, the
Mm-hmm.
conservation goes, even if we're not there.
Absolutely. No, you're right. Then it becomes self sustainable.
Exactly. And they won't need Leo
Yeah.
anymore in there.
Somehow I think there'll always be a place for you. Leah, a lot of people have a very sort of negative outlook on the future of the oceans. They worry about global warming and about coral bleaching, about destruction of habitats and so forth. What do you think the future holds? Are you optimistic for marine conservation for the future of the ocean?
It is really, really hard to answer that question. I used to dive a lot in South. I go and dive now. I see
Mm,
different things. And then once I couldn't pass, and it's different structure again. So if the temperature doesn't change
hmm
much, I think we can still have healthy corals in the future. But if we're still keeping changing it the
mm,
way it is now, I'm afraid that we're gonna lose quite a lot of good things in the sea. I just want to keep my thinking positive that everything will come back to normal. This part is getting finished now, and then whatever comes in future, it will just be the good weather, the good climb for the sea, and then everything will be healthy and happy to be receive more people
hmm
in there and see a beautiful diversity that we have found it before. That is my hope for the future. I don't like to think on the negative impact that what will come, but of course it's a good thing to think about. But I always like to think positive that this thing is just passing now. Tomorrow we'll have the sun will shine again tomorrow. So I'm hoping that in the future it will be only the sun shining. We're on the darkness now, but I think there is a sun coming in.
Well, that's a really great way of looking at it. As you said, if we think about today and tomorrow and the things that we can do today and tomorrow, those are the things that we can control now, but bit by bit, they'll make a change for the future as well.
Yep.
Thank you very much for talking to me. I think that is a really great introduction to you and who you are and what your plans and your hopes are. And it's been really, really great talking to you. Um, I hope that we get a chance to to meet sometime, but even more than that, I hope that you get a chance to get back to the island soon.
That is my hope too. I hope to get back into the islands very quick and then start to move on because things that they're not stopped, but I think it needs more of attention to go. So hopeful soon we get to dive together.
Thank you for listening to Leave Our World a Better Place. Don't forget to subscribe to make sure that you never miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about And Beyond, please log on to our website at andbeyond.com.